Here are some people arriving. Hooray.
That's where we all are, Tracy.
Yes, exactly. Good afternoon, everyone. I can see people arriving now, which is great. Sorry, technical issue, but we're here now. So thank you. And is everyone in, Tamina?
Yes, that's everybody in now.
Okay, fantastic. It's that button that says start meeting. So thank you for spotting that, Nikki.
Record.
Problem. So it's
right. Fantastic. So welcome everyone to our webinar, which is going to evaluate and share our learning from the pilot of the smoke-free app that we introduced in London. Delighted to have so many people here, and delighted that we found the button that said start meeting, so that we've been able to allow all of our colleagues into the meeting. So, and we can't see you if you're laughing, so you can laugh as much as you like, actually, because we can only see each other as the presenters. So thank you very much. So with no further delay, because we have quite a lot of stuff to get through, I will just share some slides with you and just say that you're all very welcome and thanks for joining us. So here we are.
Hi, I'm Katrina.
So is that in presenter mode? Because it's not. Oh, yeah, there we go. Right. OK, so thank you. This is the meeting you're in. If you're expecting to be anywhere else, I apologise. But today we're going to talk about the kind of smoke-free app evaluation in London. And my screen is not allowing.
You've muted yourself.
Mute.
Yeah, okay, great. Sorry about that. My screen has just frozen, so just give me a second. Let's try it again. So I'm not going to be able to go onto full screen. Apologies for that, but it won't let me go through the slides. So if somebody could just give me the nod that they can see that. Eleni, I can see you. Yeah, you can see that. Great. Okay, thank you. So this afternoon, we are going to go through the journey of the commissioning and rollout of the smoke-free app pilot. I will take us through some of the time of day of week data, which was one of the elements of the specification that we wanted to really make sure that we included. I'm then going to hand over to Eleni Vangeli from South Bank, who's a senior lecturer in psychology, who will talk about the service evaluation element. Then hand over to Sonia from Bluegrass, who did the qualitative interviews with some of the users. We're going to have some reflections from the smoke-free team. And then we've got plenty of time for Q&A and thinking about where we go next. So we want this to be interactive so that we can really kind of really concentrate on some of the key elements that are of interest to people, but really thinking about where we go next as well. So we are slightly behind schedule, but we have got plenty of time in the agenda for Flex. So hopefully that will work. And I know there are some people on the call from outside London who won't be familiar with the process of how we commissioned this. So just to give a brief background, there was additional funding that came into local authorities for smoking cessation. We decided in London to see if there was interest in delivering a complementary digital offer, complementary to normal services, that would allow 24-hour access to support, would have anonymity, would have digital features, and a slightly important thing we've missed off there, so spot the deliberate mistake, would also provide nicotine replacement and or vapes. and we did have a successful swap to stop bid, which has given us vapes that we provide through the app. So the process that we undertook was we undertook insights. Bluegrass, Sonia here, undertook insights with people to understand what they wanted from a digital offer. And one of the key things that came out is that they wanted real life people. They were not very keen on bots. And I know there is a feature of that within the app, but we wanted real-time access to smoking cessation advisors. So that's what we pulled together a specification based on those insights, and we used the NICE guidance as well to form that specification. We then went through a PSR procurement, which is, as we all know, long, painful, but we got there in the end. And so Smoke-Free were successful in that procurement. We had a soft launch, which was only a year ago. It feels like absolutely ages ago. We had a soft launch, so we didn't promote it, but we did allow people who were trying to download the app organically to have access to the full version. And we commissioned our evaluation partners, South Bank University and Bluegrass. So I was quite surprised. We asked all 33 directors of public health in London if they wanted to go with the pilot, and I thought we might have a third to half of them. All of them agreed that they wanted to go forward with this, and we agreed in the pilot phase that the licence numbers would be pooled for all 33 boroughs. So boroughs would get as many licences as they were able to promote within their borough, and that proved quite interesting. We had 2,500 licenses available, and very much we wanted this to be seen as complementary to local services. And so what happened was it was used across all boroughs. Those who had greater promotion saw greater license use, which of course is not surprising. So one borough, Croydon, for example, texted all the people on their waiting lists, and they had most usage of licenses during this pilot period. We also had a promotion in transport hubs, and we had materials that we gave to local authorities that they could use locally and adapt as well. And one of the things that we were really keen on, that we had quite a lot of debate about actually in the specification group, is did we need a 24-hour-a-day service? And actually what this data shows, this is user sign up by time of day when they actually sign up for the app. And you'll see that 53% were between 5 p.m. at night and 9 a.m. in the morning. So 53% were using and signing up outside of traditional service hours. So we're offering something different, and people are using it at different times of the day. In terms of when people, so that's when they sign up for the app. They can then contact the advisors by text any time of the day or night. And you'll see, again, 55% use them outside of standard hours. So between 5 p.m. at night and again, 9 a.m. So again, people are saying, well, actually, I want this. I want to be able to use this when it's convenient for me, not during normal working hours. And Lou Ross is on the call, and I do like Lou's phrase, which is they've got a smoking cessation advisor in their pocket. And I think that's a really helpful way of thinking about this. And so in terms of day of the week, it was fairly evenly spread across the week, but we did have 21% of people signing up at weekends as well. So our initial premise that this would be something that would be used outside of normal service hours was definitely shown through this data. So I'm going to stop sharing now. And I'm going to hand over to Eleni from South Bank. Thanks, Eleni, who's going to talk through the South Bank service evaluation.
I'm just trying to get the slides up.
Very quick, Eleni. Very impressive.
I did have a practice just beforehand. see if this works. Oh, okay. So can you see my slides?
Mhm.
Yes.
Oh, fabulous. Okay. So yes, I'm Eleni Vangeli from London South Bank University and the Deputy Lead of the Nicotine, Tobacco and Vaping Research Group. And the Kirsty and Susie are also were involved in this evaluation from the LSBU team. And there you can see our local authority partners who worked very closely with Tracy and Emma, particularly on this. So just to quickly put my declarations up. Two of the LSBU team had no disclosures of interest, and Kirsty has worked for paid consultancy for other companies. And the study obviously was funded by London Tobacco Alliance. So this was a pragmatic service evaluation design, this evaluation that we did. And the intervention was delivered by Smoke Free, and the data was collected by Smoke Free between November 24 and March 25. And we were provided with the anonymised client data to analyse in August. And we pre-registered this on the Open Science Framework on the 15th of January, and we gained ethical approval to conduct the study in October 24. So the aim of this evaluation was to assess the impact, efficiency, effectiveness and appropriateness of the integrated digital smoking cessation pilot service and whether it increases the number of successful quit attempts across London. So we had the primary research question of, is the digital offer effective in helping people to stop smoking at 4 weeks? And a number of secondary questions. So how quickly did the app licenses get used? How many people downloaded a license per borough local authority? What are the characteristics and of the smokers who took up the licenses? And we're looking at socio-demographic and smoking behaviour characteristics. And then what aspects of the digital intervention predict quit success? So if we look at the client demographics to begin with, so you can see here that there were 55% of users were female and 42% male. The age at quit date, so the average age was 37 years and it ranged between 11 to 86, so quite a wide range. But you'll see that half of them were in the 18 to 34 age bracket. Sorry, someone, because I can't see anybody. No? Okay. Fine, fabulous, thank you. There was about 20% in the 35 to 44 years age bracket and 45 to 59 years.
Please, could everyone go on mute? Yeah, please, can everyone go on mute because there is an echo. Thank you.
And when we look at ethnicity, so 52% were white British, but there was also, almost half came from another other ethnicity. So we have a diverse range of ethnicities here. And sexual orientation, so the majority were heterosexual or straight, but there were, again, there was quite a significant proportion of people that have different sexual orientations or preferred not to say. When we look at socioeconomic background, so 38% were from the managerial or professional occupation, and 23% identified as other, so they didn't really identify with any of these groups. And there was quite a few in the other socioeconomic background groups. So again, indicating that this is actually reaching a wide variety of people with different backgrounds. When we look at free prescription status, there was quite a large proportion who were eligible for free prescriptions, 42%, And when we carry on to look at IMDQ, which is a measure of deprivation. So we see the lowest quintiles are the most deprived areas, and this is calculated by postcode, and those in the higher quintiles are more affluent areas. And the average was quintile was around 2.4 when you're thinking about the quintiles, so around here. So you can see that there is quite a large proportion of people coming from the lower quintiles here. Now to look at smoking behaviours. So when we look at time to first cigarette, there were quite a few. So about over 60% who are smoking within half an hour of waking up, which is indicating dependent smokers to be high dependent smokers as a majority of the people that are accessing this smoke-free app to help them to stop smoking. And the average cigarettes per day, number of cigarettes per day, is 13.04. A huge range here, and when we come to doing the inferential statistics, so the predictor model at the end, we take out the outliers to make sure it's not biased by it, because I'm not sure how somebody could smoke 500 cigarettes a day. Okay. Summary of the demographics. So the average age of clients was 37 years old, with 50% in the 18 to 34 age bracket. Both females and males used the app, and 3% of users identified their gender as other. The app was used by those from a wide range of ethnicities, with 69% white and 27% from other ethnicities. 73% of app users were heterosexual, 5% bisexual, 4% gay or lesbian, and 16% preferred not to say. The average IMDQ status was 2.4, with 57% of app users in quintiles 0 to 2. And 42% were eligible for free prescriptions. All socioeconomic status backgrounds were represented, with the highest proportion of app users from managerial and professional occupations, followed by 23% unknown. It is likely that most app users were dependent smokers, given the majority smoked within 30 minutes upon waking, and average cigarettes per day smoked was 13. So now let's look at the quit rates. Following the intention to treat principle, which is basically, it follows the Russell standard. So basically, anyone lost to follow-up is counted as a smoker, as well as those who reply, who respond that they've relapsed, returned back to smoking. So following that, it's a 43% quit rate, and you can see here that 38% were lost to follow-up and 19% said that they relapsed. When we look at the quit rates by pharmacotherapy, the majority did not elect to use any pharmacotherapy within the app, so they didn't order any stop smoking aids via the app. So you can see 68% there didn't have any aids, and 9% used both NRT and vape, 15% used vape only, and 8% used NRT only. And when we when we split those groups up by quits and not quits at 4 weeks, we can see here that there were differences between those who quit versus those who didn't quit at 4 weeks, with no pharmacotherapy being used in the not quit group. A lot more, you can see 81% compared to 52% in the quit only group. And then you can see obviously the use of different things. So vape only versus in the quit group versus the not quit group was about double, and similarly the other products used were double or triple that of quadruple that of the not quit group. So now let's look at the app usage features. So when we look at the total app usage and expert usage, so when we look at total app sessions that the users had, you can see that it's 20 for the average number of times of 24. And then when we look at expert usage, it was 5. Using the expert 5 times. When we look at quit, it was 43 for total app usage and 9 for expert usage. And for those who didn't quit, the app use was lower, so a lot lower, 10, as was the expert usage. And now we don't know, it could be, we'd expect lower because if people stopping, like if they start smoking, they're going to possibly also stop engaging with the app. So, we can't see cause or effect here, but it indicates, that it's worth looking into more. Expert usage, when we look at whether they used an expert or not at all, the 62% of the total people used, total sample ever used experts. And again, it was much higher in the quit group versus the not quit group. So now we'll look at the predictors of quit success at 4 weeks. So we conducted a logistic regression model to explore what factors predict odds of quit success at 4 weeks. And in here, we used data from 2,264 cases who had a 4-week quit status recorded, and they had data for all factors in the model. And also we had, removed outliers, so the extreme outliers in responses, which is, the way that you conduct logistic regression to avoid results being biased by the extremes. Okay, so what did we find? So you can see here the table with all the different factors we put into the regression. And the ones in a pink color are the ones where there was a significant, that were significant predictors, the factors that were significant predictors. The ones that are in black and just black weren't significant. So the sociodemographics, age, gender, ethnicity, socioeconomic background, socioeconomic status, cigarettes, well, none of those were predictive of 4-week quit success. And however, number of app sessions and first cigarette of the day, if it was after 60 minutes compared to of waking compared to 5 minutes, there was a significant predictor there. Those who used the app more were significantly more likely to quit, and those who used any pharmacotherapy compared to none via the app were also, the odds of quitting was greatly more. So here in the OR column is the odds of quitting. So vape only versus none, the odds were increased by 3.87, NRT only versus none, 2.87, NRT and vape versus none, about 5 times. Yeah, so I think I've actually gone through that much quicker than I was expecting. Oh no, there's another slide, another 2 slides. Okay, that's fine. Right, challenges and limitations. So data limitations. So we had some small cell sizes, so small numbers in these cells, and the number of cells, so categories, for some of the sociodemographic variables limited the analysis and therefore could not be controlled for in assessing predictors of quit success. For example, we couldn't look at sexual orientation, religion, or pregnancy status as predictors in the logistic regression module because there just wasn't, the numbers weren't there to enable the statistical processes to happen. App feature data, the availability and quality of that limited the exploration of what features of the digital intervention influence success. So we would like to look at things like amount of specialist advisor access or out of hours usage, but the data that we needed on an individual level wasn't available, so we couldn't look at this. Via the app, we could look at, there was a record.
Eleni, I'm not sure if you can hear me, but you're breaking up, Eleni. I wonder if you turn your camera off.
Oh.
That's all right. You've got to this point, which is great. So
I can't actually see the window with the Teams call on it.
Actually, you're recovering a bit now.
Okay, I'll carry on. I've only got a couple of minutes. Hopefully, it will be okay. So we and also if you remember, there was a high number of people who were able to get who were eligible for prescriptions. So it's possible they could get NRT elsewhere for free. So anyway, we don't have a record of that. So we can only speak to pharmacotherapy used via the app. Incentives for follow-up were implemented partway through the evaluation timeframe, and this could have influenced quit success in its own right. And this was brought in because the follow-up rate was quite low, and there needed to be ways to increase it. Also, self-report quit. The findings are limited to self-report quit status only, so we don't have any biochemical verification. Okay, so what are the conclusions? What can we conclude from this? The app licenses were all utilised within a 6-month period, with activations per day higher following borough-wide recruitment strategies, as Tracy alluded to. And all London boroughs saw utilisation of licenses, but the usage varied between them. The app use was by those from a range of genders, ethnicities, sexual orientation and socioeconomic backgrounds, including those from the lower IDMQs, with 50% from being 13 to 84 years in age, and most app users would be considered as dependent smokers. The 4-week quit rates were 43% for those using the smoke-free app. And app features, while difficult to assess, there was greater total app usage over a quit attempt, and the use of pharmacotherapy increased the chances of quitting. However, most app users did not elect to use any pharmacotherapy. Socio-demographic factors did not affect quit success for those using the app, and quit success was influenced by indices related to dependence, i.e. not smoking within 60 minutes of waking compared to smoking within 5 minutes. I think the screens are... Sorry if you were looking at the wrong screen there. I'm not sure what's happened.
We were on the right screen.
Oh, you were?
Eleni.
Okay.
And we're now on your last one, your last thank you slide.
Fab. Okay, well, thank you very much from the LSBU Nicotine, Tobacco and Vaping Research Group for commissioning this quantitative evaluation. And we have the report and the slides up on the OSF Open Science Framework, so you can go up and see the full report as well as the slides if you wish to. And hopefully, if there's any other evaluations, we'd be happy to help. And that's it. So I don't know if you want to take questions now or later. Probably later, isn't it?
Well, just to say, first of all, thanks so much, Eleni. Really clear and really good to have your presentation. And we will put a link into the chat because we've put the evaluations onto the London Tobacco Alliance website as well. So we've got someone hopefully will pop that into the chat now. There was one question from Glenn, and it came up after some data had gone through. He's saying that some data is from 99 people, and I apologise, Eleni, I was trying to manage other stuff. Glenn's saying that some of the data was saying that the number of people was 99 people. I don't know which slide it was.
On the report.
Sorry, I don't know if I was reading it wrong. It might have been percentages, but it seemed to imply at the beginning that the sample you were using was 99 people. So was I just reading percentages rather than numbers?
I can't recall anything about 99 people. Do you remember what it was?
First or second slide?
First or second slide? I can't see 99 people on any of the slides. Sorry.
No, I added it up.
Oh, are you reading percentages?
That's what I'm asking. Did I?
Yes, they're percentages. So if you're looking at if you're looking at the pie charts, they're all percentages.
Thanks. Right.
Okay.
Great, thank you. And we will be having a Q&A and a panel session later. So thank you for that. Thanks, Eleni. And it was great to have external evaluation as it was with Sonia too, to do both those kind of quantitative service evaluation pieces and the interviews with users in the qualitative way. So I'm going to invite Sonia now to present, and hope our technical gremlins have been expunged.
Yeah, I hope so too. Hang on, let me see if I can get that in presenter mode. Okay, anybody can see that?
Yes, thanks, Sonia.
Yes, great. Okay, so thanks for having me today. And as Tracy said, we undertook a complementary bit of work to the work that Eleni has just presented so beautifully. So Eleni's was all about statistics. Ours is a lot more qualitative in nature. It deals with much more of the touchy-feely stuff, if you like, rather than hard statistics. So what we wanted to do is to understand and explore in as much detail as we possibly could the experience that users had whilst they were actually trying that quit attempt and using the app. So what did we do? We did 25 what we've called standard depth interviews. So these were one-on-one, they were telephone calls, they lasted on average 20 to 30 minutes, some were longer. And these were all amongst people who'd been recruited through the app, so through the Smoke-Free app, but they had used the app at the point that we interviewed them. They had used the app for at least 14 days. Some of them it was a lot longer. And we chose that to make sure that we understood the experience for at least 2 weeks. To complement that, we did alongside those one-on-one interviews, we did what we've called deep dive depth interviews. A bit of alliteration there because we all love that. And these were again recruited through the Smoke-Free app, but these were people who were at the start of their journey, and we engaged with them regularly, 3 times a week at least, over a 4-week period. So we did a longer interview the first time we spoke to these people, and we did another more lengthy interview at the back end of those 4 weeks. And in between times, we talked to them 3 times a week, typically a Monday, Wednesday, and a Friday. And on the Monday, we would talk about the week that had just gone and what they were anticipating for the week ahead. And those interim calls varied between 5 and 15 minutes on average. So that's the method that we used to get the findings, and there was just so much detail, and that's all in the full report, which is on the LTA website. But if we looked at the practicalities of using the app, it was sort of blanketly, if that's a word, agreed that the app was easy to use and very accessible. So even for those people who would say to us, oh, well, I'm not very good with technology, or I don't usually use apps, or whatever it is, we heard repeated descriptions that the app was easy to use and very sort of intuitive. It made sense, the way you work your way through the app, how you find things. It was simple. The aesthetics were very uncluttered. Everybody felt that the information was presented clearly in a way that was easily accessible to understand it. Visually, it looked nice. They liked the colours. People talked about there weren't things going on that would distract you or patronising elements. I mean, we heard some very negative comments on the owl on Duolingo. I think that was he came up a few times, and they appreciated not having something like that actually. And as I said, navigation, people praised it. Some evidence of unseen features if there was scrolling required on a specific page of the app, or a specific page of the app, but generally navigation was easy enough. And here's a quote that says, it's quite clear, easy to navigate, you can find your way around simply, things that pop up on the front screen you'd visit regularly. So it's even presenting you with the stuff that you want to go to, so it's easily found. What did the app deliver? Well, it delivered lots of different things that were more and less important to individuals as they are individuals, if you like. So it offered a lot of support. It very much made people feel that they had something with them on this journey, that they weren't on their own. It delivered lots of practical tools and advice, motivation, rewards, comfort, reassurance. So lots of stuff. So practical help, as well as useful distraction in moments of cravings. It could sometimes be useful in that respect, to take your mind off things. It helped people to remember why they were doing this. The daily check-ins gave a reminder of the objective. It really motivated people. The tracking features, so that's, you know, what's happening with your health, what's happening with the money. People talked with surprise about how much time they had got back from not smoking. So that was that's really motivational and delivers that sense of achievement. The advisors really offer advice as well, but as well as offering the practical advice, they are there. It's like, even if people weren't using them a lot, the knowledge that they could is massively valued. So just generally speaking, the community particularly delivered to this, but the app gives you this sense of a companion in this very, very difficult journey, a powerful sense of not being alone. And there's a quote from a lady we talked to there. There's comfort in knowing the app's there, and that at any point I could dive into it and talk to someone. Why does it work? Well, it's the flexibility and the tailorability that makes it work for most people. So we saw from Elaine's presentation there that people were using different things, not using different things, using at different amounts. And we saw that very much in the qualitative. There were people who were going on several times a day, contributing to chat groups, contributing tips. And then there was other people who would perhaps go on less often, perhaps wouldn't interact so much with those chat groups. They might lurk a little bit, but very much you can use the app in a way that suits you. And actually, when it came to the original quantitative work that we did before the app was commissioned, when we were looking at what people wanted, they very much wanted that a tailored offer that would suit their lifestyle. And this is what the app delivers. So there is there's the ability to use it when and how you want, but then added to that, the variety of different features and things that you can do with the app meant that there was usually something for everyone. So it might not be, the chat groups might not be for you, but the advisors might be, or the you know, the tracking features might be the things that really resonate for you, but not for the next person. So that variety of things that will continue to motivate and inform and support is what makes it work so well, because there is something for everything. And then I think in terms of letting me see, monitor cravings and the money saved and everything, I think that's when it's played a pretty significant role, especially the first few weeks when it's the difficult time. And that was something that came out quite strongly, that those first few weeks was when the app is at its peak needed. It's most needed in those first few weeks. So how did our users feel about it? Well, everybody that we spoke to as part of our qualitative approach there said that they would attribute their quit success at least in part to the app, if you know, and lots of different degrees of attributing the success of the app in that. But everybody felt that there was something about it that made it that they were able to sustain that quit for 4 weeks. And through various features, we talked about this. You're not alone on this journey, and this is actually quite a big difference for some people, and for a lot of people actually, that previous quit attempts have felt quite lonely, quite isolating, and you know, I could talk more about this, because we know that actually if people do encourage their network, their social network, by telling them that they're doing a quit, that they will get the support, and that's actually a very positive thing to help towards a successful quit. But there are smokers out there who don't want to tell their nearest and dearest because they don't want to let them down. So in those instances, having somebody, albeit it's an app, with you is an incredibly important feeling. Most of our people that we spoke to said that they would recommend it to others, and many told us little stories of who they had already recommended it to. And there is something that they feel that they recognize that their use declines as the cravings decline, as you get more used to being a non-smoker or an ex-smoker. Then people use the app less. It becomes slightly less salient for them. But a lot of them talked about the fact that they didn't want to delete it, that they wanted to keep it there as a type of security blanket, if you like. You know, I might never not be using the app. Perhaps it's a lifetime thing. I think it'll always be available when I need it. And people wanted that reassurance that, you know, should things get difficult again, then they could go back to refresh that motivation that the app has given them. And then a final quote there, which is just so lovely. I would say that the app has exceeded my expectations. I can't think of anything that could be added to it because I find it so helpful. More tools than I could have imagined. I can't actually think of anything. I knew nothing about the app until I downloaded a bunch of apps. So I wish Smoke Free was known about more, because it's a really helpful tool and it could help a lot of people. So I will stop sharing.
Thank you, Sonia. And what I like about the contrast in your presentations is that Eleni tells us, and I'm teaching you to suck eggs here, but we've got the data that tells us about stuff, and then the qualitative insights. These people, their stories come out and very, very clearly, and that's very, very powerful. So, well, thank you to both of you for that, and we're going to have some time for discussion later. So, and good grief, we are 2 minutes early. As I hand over to David Crane, who's CEO of Smoke Free, and just some reflections from you, really, you know, around the process, around how this went. David, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Tracy. It's been a real pleasure to be part of this project. I think it's been, you know, really well put together. I can't imagine the difficulties of getting all of London boroughs to agree on something. Well, we saw some of those, and but the whole way this has been managed, I think it's been fantastic, and it's wonderful to see the results that Eleni and Sonia were presenting, and they kind of match some of the experience that we've had in other areas as well, both in terms of the sort of population that tends to use the app, people in low IMD quintiles, people who from different sexualities, with the same sort of levels of dependence, slightly different ethnicities in London, of course, because that represents the makeup of the city, but in general, I think a broadly similar population, and then wonderful to see all that positive feedback and to know that, you know, we're doing a good job, and that some of the things that we kind of built into the app that theory said would work, such as giving people a range of choice and letting them do the quit their way and allowing them to find the tools to work for them, and to see that working in practice is very gratifying. One of the things that I thought I'd dive a little bit more deeply into was the use of products, because we wondered if the low use of products in LTA was different to other parts of the country, and if so, what might be causing that. So the first thing we did was we just looked at quit rate uptake in other areas. Now, you may not be able to read the text, apologies for that. The thing to look for is the light blue portion of the pie chart, which is broadly similar in LTA to Greater Manchester. Greater Manchester is about 10% more, but Greater Manchester were only offering a vape. They weren't offering NRT. It's quite different to West Sussex, Wiltshire and North Links, where there was more use of one or more quit aids, 70% in Wiltshire North Links, and about 60% in West Sussex. But for some reason similar to Devon. So again, 64% of people in Devon didn't use any quit aids. So there's no obvious reason. It's not like it's a big city problem, because Devon had quite a low use of quit aids. Devon is there's not a load of data coming out of Devon yet, so that number may change over time. But it did seem that there is potentially a bit of an unusual situation happening in London. So we had a look and tried to work out what the cause of that might be. And this is anecdotal data. It's not formally gathered or analysed, but speaking to our advisors who were speaking either to people trying to get them to do an onboarding call or follow-up calls, or just in the day-to-day delivery of the service, we found that there was a bit of unfamiliarity with stop smoking support in general, potentially from some people that have come in from Eastern Europe, have no stop smoking support in the countries that they are from. So the service itself is a new concept, and I'm not sure how it might be able to help them. Then there was a fair amount of unfamiliarity with and suspicion towards quit aids, unsure about how they could help. What job do they do? How is this going to help me stop smoking? There is the fear, of course, that we know about that using NRT or vapes will just simply prolong an addiction rather than be a harm reduction technique. And there is an increasingly worrying view that vapes are worse than smoking. The other reason we thought, and we had some anecdotal evidence for people who weren't using quit aids, is because simply there's no such thing as a free lunch. Look, we don't believe you that you're going to give us free quit aids. It can't possibly be true. It sounds too good. So I think with all of these things, there are some actions that we can take that might be able to alleviate this. So, for example, a concerted education campaign about why support helps. Coming back to Eleni's figures there, if you use NRT plus vape plus the app, you've got a 5 times better chance of quitting than just use the app itself. That's a powerful story, I think, to tell people. I think, as Sonia was saying as well, the value of peer-to-peer recommendations, which is the most valuable tool of all in our arm, is much better that somebody else recommends that you use this particular product to stop smoking than the manufacturer of that product. So how can we leverage that within the app? How can we encourage people? Because again, that might overcome some of the cultural differences as well. If there's case studies and other people that are just talking about how these particular tools have helped them. And then actually providing some more support in more languages. And here I think AI has a role to play. It's obviously not perfect, but is it good enough? Does it do enough of the job? Does it do a better job than there not being that language in place? And I would suggest that the answer is yes. But there is also, I think, quite a lot of reason for optimism. So if we look at the latest data, the Q2 data that we reported for NHS England, we're getting now 48% quit rate. We've got much better follow-up rate now. We get 75% follow-up rate compared to the 60 odd percent that was in the evaluation. And this is a 48% quit rate, despite 65% of people not using any aid at all. And what I suggest this does is it supports the belief that behavioural support works in and of itself. If you go to a stop smoking advisor, most of the time you're going to be talking about medication, and obviously you've only got a small amount of time in front of that person anyway. So if you take that away, we still know that behavioural support works, because this is all NCSCT guidance, this is all evidence-based, this is all driven by what works in practice, and we're just implementing it in digital form, and we know that that works. And I think that if we're able to increase the number of people that are using quit aids, we could feasibly get the 4-week quit rate to 60% with this kind of support. Particularly when one of the things that we've got coming soon, hopefully in mid-December, is cytisinicline and varenicline that will be delivered to a user store anywhere in the country via Asda pharmacies. And we think that the offering of these obviously one reintroduced, a second effectively brand new quit aid could expand the interest in using support to stop smoking, especially with things like cytisinicline that don't come with the baggage of NRT or varenicline. That's it from me. But yeah, once again, thank you very much for the opportunity to both present today and to help people stop smoking in London.
Thank you, David, and we're all aligned in that common goal. That's what's great fun about working on this kind of work. So thank you to you and the team for being great to work with, and for going through times of uncertainty, times of challenge, and we've been on a big journey together. So thank you very much for that. And we are now slightly ahead of schedule, which is great because it gives us lots of time for questions. There was a question about product use in the I'm just going back, it was a bit higher up. Do we have any insights from people who didn't successfully quit, for example? Why it, sorry, I'm just going back up through the chat. It's from Xiaolin. Xiaolin, do you want to ask that question directly?
Hello.
Hello.
Just wondering for the interviews whether there are any smokers actually who did not successfully quit whilst the app, trying to understand any insight from them, why it doesn't work for them, any barriers there.
We haven't got any of that information ourselves. I don't know if Eleni or Sonia has. I would say that I think obviously very common for people to not succeed in any particular quit attempt, and one of the things that we're finding is that people are coming back for their subsequent quit attempts on a quite frequent basis, and I think this is where the range of features available helps, because it's like, okay, I tried that thing before, maybe it didn't work, or maybe it worked a bit, so I'll use that thing again, but I'll also maybe try this thing now which I haven't tried before.
Thank you.
Sonia.
Yeah, I think I would agree with David there that something we know from smoking research generally and talking to smokers is that people who are willing to try that again will always look for something new to help them, won't they? So that's when something new comes out onto the market, or there's a new type, they'll think, well, yeah, that's something I haven't tried before, I will try that. So I think that is true with the app. I think in terms of the research that we did and whether we had any insight to why it didn't work for people, I don't think we could necessarily talk in great sort of confidence about that, because obviously we've just talked to 33 people. It's a qualitative bit of work. But one of the things that did come out of the report, and that might and that you know, I know you're thinking about, David, is this whole idea of the people who cut down on the way to quitting, and whether or not the app supports them as well as they would want to be supported in that particular route to quitting. And I know there's a lot of other things going on around the sort of cutting down to quit, and you know, a lot, we know that we talk to a lot of people who cut down to quit and never get to the quit. They just stay in that sort of cut down mode and congratulate themselves for getting to 5 cigarettes a day when they used to smoke 20 a day. So obviously we don't want them to stop there. But in terms of the people who perhaps didn't have quite such a positive experience with the app, I think they would still say that the app helped them in lots of ways, but because they can't, you know, there's nothing there that tells them, well, you used to be on 20 and now I'm on 5, and you know, those sorts of things that they that the particular sort of tracking goals don't necessarily fit with someone who is on that road to quitting.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charlene. Any other questions? You've got all this expertise here, so please do use it. Cornelius, or is it Bella? Sorry, I can't tell which is your first name.
Thank you. It's Cornelius. Surname is Bella. Thank you so much. One thing I observed with the app, and I think is that it gives room for development. Just as David mentioned about AI, I think as we proceed, especially because I remember we had to go fully on telephone support when COVID hit, and imagining that this app was available then. So it's, I think, from what I've heard, I think there's room for development. The challenge that we still continue to have is that we have the age group difference. So there are people that still want that face-to-face. There's still people that still have that challenge with app and how to navigate around that. So I think we have to make room for that, okay, how do we still support those people whilst we have the people that have smart also have this option. And I think this actually gives room for, like, people have choices. You can either do this or do that. So I won't say, but I think it's a very good way forward. So thank you.
Thank you for that. I think that's kind of a statement, or does anyone want to respond to that?
Just to say, yeah, I totally agree. I think AI is a really big focus of development for us going forward. We're working with the University of East Anglia on developing an AI chatbot for pregnant people, because one of the concerns for me has always been about how do we make sure that the AI, if you let it off into the wild, delivers information that is reliable, doesn't sort of talk about vapes being harmful as cigarettes, for example. So we're developing some work with the University of East Anglia on doing that for pregnant women, which I hope will then allow us to have a chatbot that we could use NCSCT data and others in order to deliver information. And what the hope for me with AI is that it can start to deliver more personalized interventions, and that ultimately what it then does is it frees up face-to-face to be able to focus on those people who want face-to-face or respond best to face-to-face, or for one other reason need face-to-face. So hopefully AI can do the heavy lifting and then leave the face-to-face services for the people that are really going to benefit most from it.
And I'm just going to put a qualifier in there, Dave, and generally on the call, which was our insights said that they wanted real people. And I think it goes to Barry's point in the chat, which is that we need a jigsaw of stuff. We need a kind of multiplicity of approaches to support people. I mean, it's interesting from the quality evaluation is that people did like that personal touch, but appreciate that, you know, lots of people, I know someone who was recently had a serious illness, and they were chatting to AI every day and it was giving them support. So it is moving into a different phase, definitely. So any other comments on that point before we go to Andy? Sonia. Sorry, apologies.
So I was just going to say that I think that the reason that people reject AI or the bot is because of the limitations at the moment, and it's not necessarily to do with the fact that it's not a real person. It's to do with the perception that a real person will be better.
Yeah.
If you get the subtle difference there. So I think that there were people who were who kind of used the bot but found the fact that it then just gave, you know, a set of answers, or it didn't respond the way they wanted it to. So it is more about the quality of the interaction rather than necessarily that there's not or that would be my interpretation of what was said. But at the moment they don't want it because they don't think it's any good.
Well, because we've all been on a bot to our bank. Yes, look, see, that's exactly a reflection of some of the current kind of AI, but it definitely will improve. So so thank you. So moving on to other questions, we've got Andy Lloyd now. Nice to see you, Andy.
Brilliant.
Traveling down to London.
That's right. Yeah, all the way from my upstairs study. Yeah, fascinating presentations. And I think there's so much for us to learn from. I think I was particularly interested, especially with sort of the out of hours use of the app. I mean, obviously download's probably not quite so surprising, but I just think it sort of ties in, and also Sonia's slides around the kind of the notion of whether people realize it or not. You know, the people being able to reach for that additional willpower when they need it. And, you know, we know very much from the insights that sort of people have a strong belief in willpower. And almost as the most legitimate quitting means, and that enables them to sort of have that almost turbo boost whenever they need it. The question is more for sort of, I guess, for both potentially Tracy and you Tracy and David, and it's so some of the key takeaways I think is, you know, from the data is that, you know, the more you use the app, the more you're likely to succeed. Obviously, the value of NRT, and really note David's comments about that sort of need for a wider educational campaign to show the value of support. Also, I think potentially as well, just, you know, the value of more openly communicating, getting friends and family in on the quit as well. So, you know, I guess it was just kind of, you know, as we learn, we adapt and we improve, and we work to what is really working for people. But, you know, are any of these learnings, especially I guess around you know, the more you use it and the value of NRT, are there any plans to sort of incorporate that more into sort of, you know, both London promotion of the app, but also into the app itself?
So Andy, I did put something in the chat. So definitely, one of the reasons for wanting this qualitative stuff is it does give us a richness of how that actually works, and how can we adapt our promotional materials in respect of that. And we have got, I put a link in the chat, we have got a couple of films of people who've successfully used the app, and they've talked about elements that work. And I think we definitely would like to build on that, so that the message about, you know, how can you make this work, and coming from someone who's successfully used it, I think is really powerful. So it's a point well made.
And in terms of the app, you know, I think absolutely it's something we should be putting into the app to help with that communications piece about this is what the evidence shows is the best way to stop smoking, and all these data points I think really help persuade people. So the goal is both, yes, to encourage people to use quit aids in their quit attempt, and also to find ways of re-engaging people meaningfully, not just sort of through dark matter means, but just trying to get them to find reasons why they should come back on the app and either make another attempt or just continue with their existing one.
Brilliant, thanks so much.
Great. Okay, over to Glenn.
Hi, thanks very much for that. I think you've obviously shown that the app is useful, and we can go through the data as much as you want, but I was wondering, so it seemed to indicate that lesser addictive smokers, e.g. who have the first cigarette 60 minutes post getting up, which I think is a measure of addiction, they're more likely to quit than through the app than others. So is there anything, I mean, there's obviously a market for there, and 800,000 smokers in London. So I'd wonder how many people we can target, particularly through that way, and what we can do for addicted smokers.
So sorry, is your question addressed to Eleni around the?
Anyone who'll talk back to me.
So can you just reframe your question, Glenn, because you did cut out slightly.
Sorry, our IT's rubbish. So the data seems to indicate that it's more useful for people who are more addicted. Sorry, less addictive. So cigarettes, it's 60 minutes plus post getting up. So, you know, and there's obviously a market for that. So 800,000 smokers in London. I mean, I don't know what proportion of them are at that level of addiction. So that's, you know, can we work that out, and how do we target them? And what can we do to target, or what can we do for those who are more addicted, e.g. smoking less than 60 minutes post getting up?
Well, I think the question is broader, which we've had discussions previously, Glenn, is how do we reach this kind of panoply of different kinds of smokers? So in terms of level of smoking, as you rightly pointed out, in terms of what population group do they belong to, what is motivating them. So I think all of those mean that we need to really continue to crunch the data so that we know where people are, what their needs are, and how we can reach them. Reaching them is part of the problem, and we can do specific pieces of work. As you know, we had our LGBTQ campaign, which we directly targeted people who identify with a particular community, but others who smoke various amounts, that's an interesting question, and they will obviously be spread across different populations too. So the work carries on as we've discussed. We need to really get down into, we're very keen on the neighbourhood model. We had a discussion this morning with the NHS England neighbourhoods team around how we can use neighbourhoods to find people. It doesn't address your question directly about amount of smoking, but clearly what is being shown, and this would be interesting to know within services too, is heavier smokers are not as successful in giving up. And so that's where the question of cutting down is also quite interesting. So right, Barry, I think, is next. And Andy, if you could put your hand down, that'd be great, please, unless it's come up again.
Can I just say something?
Sure, Eleni, sorry.
I think also it's, so if we look at the app use, so we had a very large group, well, we had 50% of app users between 18 and 34. So often, so we know that, younger smokers tend to be less dependent. So it might be an indicator that this is attracting quite a few people with low dependence as well. So it's a good way of attracting a variety of, people who will find, and some will find it enough and others won't.
And Sonia had a hand up. Barry, are you happy if Sonia comes in and jumps the queue? Thank you.
Sorry, Barry. I think that it's not surprising that people who show lower levels of addiction find it easier to give up, regardless of what they're using. So I think it's that, but maybe it's something to think about in terms of communication, that if it's about that time when you have your first cigarette in the morning, then is moving that time out a good preparation for a quit attempt? It's just another message that might say to quitters, actually, if you become the sort of person who has your first cigarette half an hour after, if you're not ready to quit yet, but you can move yourself closer to that group that does find it easier to quit, then maybe that's a good, sort of a pre-quitting preparation almost, or a step on the road to. It's just a thought.
And that really lends itself to the question of cutting down, as you say, doesn't it? So Barry, patiently waiting in Merton.
Can I jump in now? No, I don't want to.
So thanks. And I guess we're looking at what is a big complex mix of interventions. We've got advisor, we've got farmer, NRT, and we've got the app. And the app itself has a significant number of different behaviour change techniques as part of it. So again, thinking about the NICE guidance on digital behaviour change interventions, one of the research recommendations was to be really clear on, well, the challenge is that it's almost impossible to see which behaviour change technique, when delivered digitally, is the successful factor or combination of digital behaviour change techniques. So is there anything in the data that we've got, Eleni, around which components are used more by an individual and whether that makes them more likely to quit? So thinking not about the NRT or the advisors, but the digital behaviour change interventions. Because if we can understand a little bit more about that evidence, we can then possibly seek to use it in other behaviour change areas, alcohol and all the other bits. So that's quite long.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, we didn't have that level of data to be able to look at that. And those, you know, we would have liked to look at behaviour change components. And I think that's really important work that we need to do. But for that, we do need a high quality data that is aiming to actually collect this information in a way that enables us to analyse it. So maybe that's something David could
David's hand
think
went up
about
pretty
doing.
quickly, didn't it?
Well, I'm steeped in this, I guess. I did my PhD with Susan Mickey as my lead supervisor and Robert Westby in the second. So they've taught me the importance of atomising interventions into their various component elements. So we have mapped the techniques in the app against the behaviour change taxonomy, the smoking cessation taxonomy. So we have a sense of what behaviour change techniques are in the app. I think it's a really helpful and useful question to try to work out which combination of those seems to be effective, and I think for which type of person as well, because probably a combination is going to work best for one group, but a different combination is going to work best for another group. And again, to come back to the AI thing, not that I want to replace humans at all, believe me, but that what AI can help us to do is to get that level of learning and ultimately that level of delivery that simply wouldn't be possible any other way. So what we're hoping to do over the coming years is to gather more of that evidence about the techniques that work, try different techniques, and then hopefully form something that can be used not just to help more people stop smoking, but help to all kinds of other behaviour change efforts.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, and a very good general point too. It's about personalisation. So we're going towards much more personalised medicine in many ways, and I think we're just scratching the surface at the moment of what is going to work for people. That's actually quite exciting, thinking about going forward with this. So good point, thank you. So any more questions, because we have got a section called Where Next now, which may be that people wish to ask questions about where it's going next. But any more questions or observations from people on the call? Sonia?
I've just got one observation, which is it's quite a small one, but in terms of you know, we just talked about the different behaviour change techniques that are embedded in the app and everything, and I think it's an interesting one, because what we found is that what people anticipated would be good for them before starting using the app were actually or things that people rejected and thought, oh, I'm not going to be interested in playing games or whatever, and actually they found out that was exactly what worked for them to get them through so you know, no matter how well you know yourself, you don't necessarily understand what will help you, and that's probably even more true of people who've tried so many times and not succeeded in quitting. But yes, even the individual themselves doesn't really know what sort of you know, techniques or support or encouragement will actually work for them.
Yeah, and it's a point well made, Sonia. And there is the new game that has literally just gone onto the app, isn't it, Dave? Do you want to just talk about that just a little, and how people are responding to it?
So we've created a distraction game that is a virtual pet, basically. It's designed to allow people to nurture a new non-smoking self into existence, and to hopefully change identity. It's trying to work on that behaviour change technique. But also uses behavioural economics as well. So if you complete a mission or talk to an advisor or complete a diary entry, you get experience points. And then you can use experience points to buy your dragon some more clothes or wings, or take it on a holiday or something like that. So the idea is to hopefully not just provide a distraction from cravings, or a change in identity, but also promote use of other features in the app.
So it's a kind of smoking cessation Tamagotchi.
Exactly. Yes.
So
feed it, clothe it, bathe it.
Fantastic. It may be useful for us to have a session on that. That would be a good Christmas session, wouldn't it? To see how the Tamagotchi is coming on. So great, thank you. Any other thoughts either from our presenters or anyone else on the call thinking about where next? Ray.
Excuse me. Sorry. Yeah, I'm repeating the question that I posted in the chat, and apologies if I missed it. The reason for asking the question is more to do with the people I work with, people with mental illness. Go through more phases of wanting to quit and being unsuccessful, and then going back to quit attempts. And 6 months is quite a short time period, I would argue, for somebody to kind of make a successful, sustained quit attempt. So once the 6 months free access to premium content disappears, how many people are signing up? I realise that you probably don't have the data for how many of those people may have an SMI, but just as a kind of a rough guide, and I'm thinking as well, what happens if somebody uses it this year, they've been successful, but next year they've started smoking again and they want to come back to it again? What's happening there in terms of their access and what they're able to get help with? Please.
And Dave looks like he's trying to get some data out. So while Dave's doing that, Ray, we have asked all the London boroughs about these kind of scenarios so that we're very clear about what they will support. And just as they may support someone going back into a smoking cessation service, we would encourage that people can go back to using. Well, they can always use the app, but it's getting the products again. So we're figuring out what those the kind of slightly, they're not unusual pathways, but they're not in the main bulk of people, and I don't mean people with SMI, but in the main bulk of people using the app. So we are in conversations about what that looks like for different borough pathways. And has that given you time to get some data, Dave?
Just the right amount of time, yeah. So we've got 266 people have made a subsequent quit attempt in the last in so far this year, since April 1st.
And that's within the 6 months, right? So
that's within the 6 months, yes.
Yeah. So you're asking about outside the 6 months, and that is
right. So I'm saying after that 6 months, how many people are continuing to use those premium features? People, so they get 6 months free. Then what happens for those people that still are using the app? Do they continue to want to pay for it whilst they're using it, or is that a kind of would they? And I don't know if you're in your evaluation, if you asked whether 6 months was long enough as a freebie, or whether 10 months might have been more acceptable for certain groups, or for everybody. Obviously, if it's free, you'd want it for as long as possible, I presume. But and there has to be a cut-off. But I'm wondering what that looks like.
So
yeah.
Go on, Dave. Sorry.
We don't have the data to hand of the number of people that have reused the quit. We'd have to sort of look up the address. That would be the only way that we could cross-reference it, I think. But we can have a look at that and try to get it for you, Ray.
It would be interesting for me. I mean, I saw you at the London Tobacco Alliance morning. That was great. I've done some additional work back with my team about promoting the app and making sure everybody's getting access, and there are some plans, and I do plan on coming back to you talking anyway, but it's this bit about what happens after the access stops, what happens there. And I'm looking at other not other options, because there aren't really any other options that provide this free support to people. But you mentioned EI, and there's that, what's that other one that there's another WhatsApp based AI thing, Quit Coach, that's I know some of the South of England councils are using. the barrier to that is that there isn't a license agreement there, and that people would still have to pay. But yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting for me to think about the access, because cost is a huge factor for people whether they want to continue. I'll stop. Sorry.
No, that's all right. It's a very valid point. So we do allow people to try again within the 6 months, because some people want to do that, and that's the data that Dave has produced. All of these other case scenarios are the great beauty of this meeting today is we're now solving other issues. So this was to provide a complementary service to smoking cessation, and I think we've got lots of data that shows us that. So what's next? And we need to keep thinking about what are those other cases, and who are those people. So they're very valid points. So anyone else got any thoughts or comments? No, it's all gone very quiet. I think it's everyone needs a cup of tea. So or other beverages are available. Thank you so much. I'd just like to say thank you to our speakers who've given us a fantastic overview of their work, but also answered some of those questions that sit in and outside of the work that's been done. And thank you for everyone who's come on as well, and some of the really good questions. We will continue to develop. This is not an end point. This is evaluation. As I say, this is another starting point. So we cannot sit on our hands. We have lots of stuff still to do. But the important thing is we have put down a marker that this has worked. This has worked at scale. People like it. People can give up with it. And we need to think about how we develop it and use it for our Londoners going forward to really carry on making inroads into the number of smokers. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Cheers. Bye. Bye.
Goodbye all.
Thanks everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.